Year 8 Geology. Why on earth do we have to learn about rocks? Well, it's actually quite a good question because most kids in grade 8 don't understand why anyone would want to study a rock. However, rocks are pretty important. Number one, they're making most of the stuff we use and wear. Number two, they hold a huge story within them that tells us about our past and what has happened in more ways than anything else can tell us. So we're going to have a look at rocks in more detail. Firstly, to understand the stories of rocks, you have to understand that rocks are constantly changing. They're not the same, they just look like that because they tend to change very slowly. Now, there are two different ways that they have changed. Plate tectonics, which is the movements of the crust that we live on, tend to smash and bash and change rocks. And also weathering, that's the interaction with living and non-living things, tend to change rocks as well. And both of these actions change rocks in two different ways. They change them physically, not by making any new substance, but by changing their shape or their position or bashing them up, smashing them up, all of those sorts of things. And they change them chemically by turning the substances in the rocks into new substances by chemical reactions. Now, how on earth does this fit in with the big picture? Well, we're going to have a look at that now. What you're going to be learning about is something called the rock cycle, and that is where we look at the continual changes that happen in the rocks around us. They're continually reshaped, remade, reborn, recycled. Now, the very first thing to understand is there's three basic types of rocks that we recognize: igneous rock, sedimentary rock, and metamorphic rock. And their name is dependent on what they were made from. This igneous rock here is made from the magma and lava that's deep within the earth, the molten rock from deep beneath the earth. Sedimentary rock is made from sediments of broken down rock. And metamorphic rock is made from other types of rock that have been changed through chemical reactions. Now, all of these rocks can undergo physical wear and tear, like this, and turn into sediments, which make sedimentary rock. Also, these rocks can undergo chemical changes, and these chemical changes turn them into another form of metamorphic rock. It's just like when you think, okay, a muffin. Sounds nice, sounds tasty, sure. But I can bash and smash and change that muffin into muffin sediments by ripping it to pieces and then squish it together to make another type of, well, very yucky muffin if I wanted. That's like the equivalent of a sedimentary rock. But I can also take that muffin and I can cook that muffin and turn it into a hard rock-like muffin that you could crack your teeth if you tried to eat. That would be a form of a metamorphic rock. In other words, we can take any type of rock and change it physically and chemically to make new types of rock. And eventually they all get remelted down in the bottom of the earth and reborn as igneous rocks to start this whole cycle again. We're going to go over this further in classes, but this is just to get your head around it for now. Now, understanding how rocks are made and remade and reformed helps us to understand the stories that are found in the rocks, because we actually live in a place with a huge amount of geological history, the Glasshouse Mountains. So you can't teach at Glasshouse and not talk about the Glasshouse Mountains, because they have some fantastic stories hidden within them. This is Mount Tibrogargan as you would see it today, but what you don't understand is beneath those rocks, if we go digging, there's a whole heap of geology that can help tell a story. Here's a picture of what Mount Tibrogargan would look like if we looked inside it and under the ground. There you go. So Mount Tibrogargan actually has many different types of rocks around it. They have these rocks here, which if you look on the little key over here, tells you that it's trachyte and rhyolite. which are types of igneous rocks. And then it has other types of rocks along here. This is schist. Notice the direction that it's in. And then we have many other types of layered rocks, but they're not layered horizontally, they're actually layered on this angle here. And they range from rhyolite sediments to rhyolite and tuff, which is something called ashstone. And then you have coal layers, and you even have layers of sandstone and quartz. So there's many different types of rocks, all different ones, igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic, found in the Glasshouse Mountains. And each one of those layers tells a story because you need to figure out how they were made. So you're going to actually be finding the hidden story in the Glasshouse Mountains. As we go through our learning of the different types of rocks and how they're made, you're going to be journaling what that tells you about how the Glasshouse Mountains were made as you uncover the different layers in that rock.